All right, and of course, saving this for last, but this is really the huge news that surprised everybody, myself included. This is one I was unaware of, and this is one I did not see coming and did not get tipped off on, and really surprised everybody. And the news first coming out on Tuesday. No, I guess it was Wednesday. The news coming out via Billboard, the industry trade magazine Billboard, breaking this news online on Wednesday that there would be a Pantera branded tour. When the initial news came out on Wednesday, only the two surviving members of Pantera, Rex Brown and Phil Anselmo, were mentioned. It did not mention in the article who would be playing guitar and who would be playing drums. And the article, being in an industry trade magazine, also mentioned the booking agent and basically was an announcement to solicit for shows, to start letting people know offers will be taken, essentially, and that this is going to happen in, I'm assuming, 2023. Yesterday, after 24 hours of massive speculation as to who would play drums and who would play guitar, yesterday it was officially announced that those slots would be held by Charlie Benanti of Anthrax on drums, of course, and Zakk Wylde on guitar. Both Charlie and Zakk, huge history with Pantera and huge friendship with those guys. Really interesting stuff here to break down and dissect. And I'm sure some of you will have some thoughts on it, and I'm happy to take your calls about it. But some thoughts from me on this. First of all, Zakk Wylde has been rumored and speculated to do this for, no joke, since the day Dime was murdered. The rumor and the speculation, and I guess maybe the desire from some Pantera fans of a Pantera show with Zakk playing guitar has been out there forever and has been denied forever. And obviously did not happen forever, because there was a long period of time where Vinnie Paul was still alive and his brother was not, and that was continually put out there, well, they're going to get Zakk and they're going to do Pantera. And that, of course, never happened. And Vinnie, when he was still with us and his brother was not, would adamantly say on more than one occasion, there is no Pantera without my brother. Not going to happen. Don't talk about it. People need to move on. So when you think about that, this happening now, and Zakk agreeing to do it, and Charlie agreeing to do it, is really interesting. We all know time changes people's feelings and perceptions sometimes, and it looks like that's what's happening here. Obviously, two great musicians in Zakk and Charlie, two guys that I think are perfect for the gig, but really interesting when you think about Vinnie Paul's well-documented feelings about this before his death, because there was a time for several years, of course, where Vinnie was still with us and Dime was not, that this could have happened with 3/4 of the band. We also know that there was historically bad blood between Vinnie, Dime, especially Vinnie, and Anselmo and or Rex at times. So the dynamics here of the personalities are really very interesting. And now with both Vinnie and Dime tragically gone, many wondered the Pantera legacy, what would happen here. Also, if you've been paying attention, Anselmo has gone out and started doing shows playing all Pantera music. He opened for Slayer on Slayer's final tour, doing an entire set of Pantera. So while Phil Anselmo has done a lot of different bands since Pantera ended, a lot, most recently, he has absolutely been embracing the Pantera music. So what really is happening here is Rex and Phil coming together, using the Pantera name, and bringing in two close friends to the Pantera camp to fill the slots left by Vinny and Dime and their death to go out and play Pantera music under the name Pantera. According to what was in the Billboard article, this isn't going to be billed as remembering Pantera or a tribute to Pantera or anything like that. This is simply being billed as Pantera. And at least at what we know now. Now, I've talked to some people in the last 24 hours, and when they start doing press about this and this gets out there a little bit, this will very much be pushed out as celebrating the music and paying tribute to the brothers. So expect it to be framed that way, which I'm not saying that's disingenuous. I'm sure it is. But let's be honest. In the time that Pantera has been gone, their music has taken on a whole new stature. And there is a whole new audience that never saw that band live. Now, many will argue, well, you're still not going to see that band live because the two founders and the two of the key guys that made that sound are sadly no longer with us. But there's still going to be people that are going to be excited about this, and it really depends upon how you look at it. I don't think anybody in their right mind, including the people playing now in this version of the band, will sit there and tell you this is Pantera. But I think they'll say, look, this is great music that was made by us, two of us, and played by two people that loved Vinny and Dime and who are great players in their own right. And we are going to bring this music back to the live stage, keep their memories alive, and celebrate the music. Look, let's be honest, there's a huge financial end of this too. This is going to be big business. I can guarantee you that every festival is lining up making offers for this to headline one of their days next year. I can guarantee you the people at Danny Wimmer Presents, who book all of these rock festivals every year, do a half a dozen rock festivals in America, are probably salivating to have the exclusive and have this close out one of their nights on their festivals next year. So there is a big business component to this. Make no mistake. Anyone that tells you otherwise is crazy. This is the music business. Again, remember that second word. This isn't, to my knowledge, unless they announce something, there's no charitable component to this. So there's money, big money on the table, the merch number, everything. Because there's a ton of people that never saw this music played live. But really how this is framed and presented is going to be very interesting going forward because there's a lot of emotions involved here. There's been a lot said over the years between the different camps. There have been at different times warring factions of different members of this band or their surviving spouses. It really surprised me that this is happening. And, as somebody who saw Pantera, I mean, the first time I saw Pantera, they were playing a club in Asbury Park, New Jersey called the Fast Lane. Cowboys was just about to come out, and there were maybe 40 people in the room. That's when I first saw Pantera. I first heard Pantera when Power Metal came out, and I was working at Megaforce, and Mark Ferrari sent me the album and said, you should look into signing this band. Mark had a co-write on that record. So I go way, way back having seen those guys. And of course I know them all. I mean, Vinny was a friend. I knew Dime and Anselmo was in the studio with us on this show a few years back. And Rex has been on constantly when he was doing stuff. The other thing is Rex, whether it was Kill Devil Hill or his solo records, I mean, Rex was on with me constantly. I had not heard from Rex in a few years. So I'm glad that he's healthy and well and getting ready to do this. And it's just very, very surprising to me and many others that this is actually happening, because there are so many different emotions attached to this. And I'm sure there's going to be very, very differing feelings from different people. But at the end of the day, I think when a show goes up, billed as Pantera, there is going to be a ton of interest in it. Even the detractors, even people who don't feel this is right, are going to, I guarantee you, when push comes to shove, most of them will buy a ticket and go. How often do you see that? Guns N' Roses, when they got back together, no Adler, no Izzy, I'm out. Okay, that's okay. They're still playing stadiums to this day around the country like they care, right? I mean, how often do you see that? How many calls did I take? Motley Crue duped everybody. They ripped off the fans. They did the contract. They broke the contract. I'm not going. That's okay. They're still packing stadiums every night as we speak. So eventually, most people come around because curiosity, or it's just too big to not want to. And the really interesting thing, too, when you look at Pantera's music, to me, there's a lot of similarities, some, I shouldn't say a lot, but some, to Metallica. In the sense that when Metallica came out, and I'm old enough to have been there when Kill 'Em All came out and to have played it on the radio, Metallica was viewed as the most uncommercial, unradio-friendly band that would never, ever get played on the radio. And over time, Metallica became radio darlings, and even though they maintained being metal to this day, Metallica, one of the biggest bands in the world. Pantera, to this day, does not have a radio hit, unlike Metallica, who of course had huge radio with Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, etc. Pantera really does not have that song still in their catalog. Maybe Cemetery Gates a little bit, maybe This Love a little bit, maybe Walk a little bit, but you're not going to turn on classic rock radio. You can turn on any classic rock radio station right now in America, and in the next hour probably hear Enter Sandman. You're never going to get that. That's not going to happen with Pantera. But the stature of Pantera's music and the legend of Pantera have grown and grown and grown ever since the band disbanded. So I think the commercial appeal is now probably higher than it's ever been. Nothing drives that more than absence. Nothing drives demand more than not having something. And I think that, coupled with two name guys with Zach and Charlie, is really going to create a lot of interest for this. But there's just, again, you can unpack it in so many ways. I'm so glad. I almost took today off just to go through the weekend and, after and not be on and use some time off. But I'm glad I didn't, because I was chomping at the bit to get on the air and talk to you guys about this since this all came out. Because again, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff I got tipped off on. There's a lot of stuff that, like, I knew about the Kane Roberts thing. That's why I mentioned it. I knew about the Demi Lovato thing. That's why I mentioned it. There's stuff that I get, and you read between the lines, you can hear me feed it to you before it breaks. I'm going to be honest. This one I had no clue and did not see coming. And I know all these guys. So they kept it under wraps real good. The other thing in the people I'm talking to that I'm finding out too is this may not necessarily be a long-term thing. This may be a thing that actually goes out and plays 20 shows at all the big festivals around the world, and that's it. It might not be 6 months of touring. I doubt it will ever be new music. But that's what the vibe we're hearing now is. We all know if it becomes a cash cow, that can all change. We also know, of course, Zach has Black Label Society. It's extremely unlikely, in my opinion, that Ozzy will ever tour again, nor should he, in my opinion. We all know that Zach did not play at all on the last Ozzy record. He is on a couple tracks on the next record, but the Ozzy stuff, let's be honest, is drying up, if not dead as far as playing live. So Zach has BLS, he has Zach Sabbath, but he can certainly make time for this. Charlie is very active with Anthrax. So they're going to have to balance schedules a little bit because the Anthrax guys need to work, and they're not going to want to lose their drummer for a year on the road. So I would expect the way this is constituted to be major events, scattered shows, festival headlines around the world, and then see where it goes from there based on schedule and interest. And I would totally expect it to be positioned and marketed in a remembering Diamond Vinny, celebrating the legacy, celebrating the music way. Really, really interesting just because there are so many different emotions, history, moving parts, and then when you pull all that out, you just look at the band as an entity unto itself and what happened with them in the time they've been inactive. And by being inactive, they are at, their stock has gone up tremendously because time has a way of making that music seem more accessible, more out there. I mean, I've been to basketball games and heard Mouth for War played over the PA as the teams are getting introduced. So that's what I mean by the Metallica comparisons, where music that was once viewed as so uncompromising, uncommercial, and in some ways extreme, is now seeped into the mainstream. And to that end, appealed to a lot more people who didn't see the band in front of 40 people like I did, who didn't see them open for Skid Row, who didn't see them headline their own shows. So I have no doubt this is going to be big. There's going to be interest in it. There's going to absolutely be mixed feelings attached to it, all more than understandable. And seeing how this unfolds, and if it all clicks and all works and does well where it goes, regardless of what they say out of the gate, we all know that all changes. Every band can change on the fly, especially if money is rolling in and especially if fans are responding to it. So we really are going to watch this. And, of course, again, all four of these guys I know. I mean, Charlie forever, been on the show 1,000 times. Zach forever, been on the show 1,000 times. Rex, been on the show countless times with all his bands since Pantera ended. And Anselmo, who I know the least, was in the studio on this show about 4 years ago. A very, very fairly well-known interview for people that were listening to this channel and my show back then, because it was right after he had made that alleged white power salute, and he came in and addressed all that, and people were, like, at the time floored by that interview. So, needless to say, huge history with most of these guys for me. And when the time is right, they will come on, I'm sure, and have to start talking about this. Right now, everyone's not saying anything, but of course, when they're ready and willing, whoever, all of them, any of them, will call in, come on. I'm going to see Anthrax here in Vegas and Zach because, again, BLS and Anthrax are on tour together now. And they are playing here in Vegas on the 28th of this month, and I plan to go. And I already had plans. They're off the day before, and I already had plans to see those guys and hang with them. So, of course, by then, if Zach and or Charlie can talk about this, which they should be able to. I mean, what's the secret? All this stuff is so calculated sometimes it makes you nuts. But if by then they're able to talk about all this, we could have them in studio right here in Vegas. So we'll find out.